Joining us to help figure out what the heck is going on with healthcare, a very dear friend of the show, a very good friend of Human Events. Congressman Tom Price is the chairman of the Republican Study Committee, an orthopedic surgeon by profession. And Tom, thanks for joining us.
Jed, wonderful to be with you, and thank you ever so much.
Well, thank you. God bless. We're just trying to parse out what the heck is going on here. We've got the
a little tough, isn't it?
Well, yes, sir. I mean, we're just trying to. Every day, it seems like they're jumping in a different direction. First, we had the public option was kind of sort of taken off the table, then it was back on, then it was back off. Now we're hearing that the Democrats in the Senate want to pass two separate bills to try to slide part of this through and get it done by the backhanded budget reconciliation process. Can you parse out for us just where the heck we are right now?
Well, I think that they're floundering, frankly, the administration and the Democrat leaders in Congress, and they're floundering because they don't have any principle that they're adhering to, and they're trying to figure out how they can build a coalition to pass something. But once, as you know, once they begin to back off the government-run program, then they lose their far left. When they move in the direction of the government-run program, then they lose their self-described moderates, and so they've got real challenges. Ideally, what would happen is that we'd sit down together in that wonderful bipartisan way and work together and come up with a solution. Because the solution is out there. It's a middle, moderate solution. It's there. It's there to be had, but it takes leadership to do, and clearly the administration isn't interested in doing that, nor is the Speaker or Senator Reid.
Well, yeah, I think, and I know you're too much of a gentleman to say this, but I think in Washington these days, when the Democrats say bipartisanship, they mean do it our way and be nice about it. Let's talk about what's going to happen. You guys are going to come back in around Labor Day or a little after, obviously, and what are the Republicans going to do? I mean, I talked to Newt Gingrich about a week ago, and he said, well, maybe they ought to think about coming in, having a very clear unified position and announcing alternatives. Now, you've got a bill that you've introduced before the recess as an alternative to the health care proposals coming out of the Obamacare. Are you guys going to come back in and just come out smoking and really push forward on your own alternatives and give the public an idea what's going on?
Well, I think there are solutions that are to be had out there that can work and don't need to raise taxes one penny and will actually solve the challenges that we've got in the healthcare arena. What are we going to do when we come back? I tell you, it depends what's happening when we come back, and I say that because we're just 2.5 weeks into this break, and we got another 2.5 weeks to go. So nobody would have dreamed that the public would have gotten this excited or this exorcised about what's going on, except for those of us who knew that the administration was trying to drag the nation in the wrong direction. And so I think if the next 2.5 weeks are like the last, then my sense is that there will be a huge uprising among the moderate Democrats, and they will say, look, we can't vote for anything that resembles what you've got on the floor right now. If that's the case, then we've got a real opportunity to do something good.
Well, I think it'd be great if you guys can, and it's obviously up to them, and certainly, as you point out, it's going to be dependent upon what's going on in the next couple of weeks. But it seems to me you guys have a tremendous opportunity, and if the so-called blue dogs are going to stick to principle and oppose something that's going to be another budget buster, it's going to be an invasion of everybody's health care. Maybe there's a coalition to be formed out there somewhere.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. And the things that we can do relatively easily are get folks insured that don't have the resources to be able to do it through modification of the tax code to assist with both credits and deductions, to make it so that health insurance is portable, that you own and control it so that you can take it with you if you change your job or you lose your job. It's one of the big concerns that many Americans have. One of the most important things is to make certain that health decisions, medical decisions, are still made by patients and families and their doctors, and not by insurance companies or the federal government.
Well,
and then some real liability reform. And those are the things that are really low-hanging fruit if we'd put together the coalition.
And that's all in the bill that you've already introduced. We're talking to Congressman Tom Price of Georgia, the chairman of the Republican Study Committee, and one of the good guys up there who's really fighting for this. Congressman Price, we had a little discussion yesterday on the show, and I wasn't smart enough, frankly, to answer this question. I think you've taken a look at some of the proposals out there now on these so-called co-ops that the Democrats are talking about in terms of the insurance exchanges and so forth. Now, this is not, as I understand it, and please correct me and explain it to us a little bit, this is not like, a dairy co-op in Minnesota that's owned by the participants, or is it? I mean, what are they thinking about, or have they even said?
Well, the truth of the matter is, what they're trying to do is to introduce a Trojan horse that is a government-run program, but call it something that is warm and fuzzy. And most folks across this land who have dealt with real co-ops, which are like the rural co-ops and the rural electrification and the like, those things are member-owned. They truly are member-owned. The vast majority of them were started by member startup money, as opposed to having the government come in and provide literally billions of dollars to provide the startup costs for these things. And you know the federal government will never get out of the way. And so these are, as far as I can tell, this is the government-run option by a different name so that they can pass it. But I think that the public's smarter than that. And frankly, if you wanted a member-owned insurance company to be able to provide health insurance, there are mutual companies all across this land that fill that bill already.
Congressman Tom Price, Georgia Republican. Let's pull back the stick a little bit, Congressman. Let's talk about a couple of other things. The health care thing has pretty much swallowed us for the first part of this August recess, but there's a lot of other things out there going on. Let's talk a little bit about the federal deficit. Now, the Congress has been on a spending spree, the likes of which I've never even heard of, far less seen before. The president says, well, I'm not going to sign a health care bill that's not deficit neutral. How far are the Democrats, in your judgment, prepared to go? It seems to me that they're printing money faster than they can spend it, and they're spending it at an historic rate.
Well, the real concern that I have is that the administration, the president, and his folks in Congress, by and large, are saying the right things, which is, we don't want to run an increased deficit. We don't want to spend more than we take in. We want to make certain that we provide appropriate tax reductions, and then doing exactly the opposite. And so it's tough for the American people to discern what's going on and to figure out who they ought to trust. What they have learned relatively over the last couple of months is that they can't trust the administration, whether it's on energy policy or tax policy or spending policy or health care policy. Because these jokers are spending to a fare thee well, and they can't print it fast enough. Literally, they can't print it fast enough. So we're going to have the largest deficit in the history of the nation. We're going to have the largest amount of money spent by the federal government as a percentage of gross domestic product in the nation's history, except during the height of World War II. And they're going to call it fiscal responsibility. Well, it's just nonsense.
Well, Congressman Tom Price, one last question before I let you go. We've heard an awful lot of, frankly, verbal assaults on the constituents by the Democrats all through this August recess. They've called them everything from domestic terrorists to evil mongers. What is the feedback you're getting around the country from people that you're talking to?
I have literally been across the country and up and down and in all sorts of districts across this land, and people are as mad as they can be about the characterization that the president has put forward, that the speaker's put forward, that Senator Reid's put forward, and many Democrat leaders have, saying that anybody who protests anything that they do are unpatriotic, or in Senator Reid's words, are evil. This is astoundingly arrogant. It is completely out of touch with where the American people are. And there was a headline today in one of the papers, I can't remember which one, that said the left surprised by the level of anger across this nation, and they just don't have their finger on the pulse. Because they don't believe that the American people are paying attention, but in fact, the American people are, and they're irate, and they're going to continue to voice their concerns, and hopefully their representatives will respond. If they don't, then 2010 will be a better year than I had ever anticipated.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it: the inside the Beltway Democrats versus the outside the Beltway Republicans. Congressman Tom Price, chairman of the Republican Study Committee. Congressman, thanks very much for taking the time to join us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Jed Babin for Fred Thompson.